Buy Refurbish Refinance is the king of property investment strategies. It's the strategy that you need to know, learn, and become an expert in if you want to grow a property portfolio. Yet, there aren't many online videos explaining the basics. So, in this short video, I will teach you the fundamentals of the numbers behind Buy Refurbish Refinance, or BRR, or BRRR, whatever you like to call it. But prior to doing that, here are 3 principles to Buy Refurbish Refinance that you need to hear. Number 1, and very simply put, your BRR deal should be calculated like this. So all of your costs, all costs going in, should be equals to 75% of the end value. Now that is because most instances when people refinance their properties after doing the Buy Refurbish Refinance strategy, well, you get a 75% loan to value mortgage on what the property is now worth. So if we work out what 75% is of that end value, that's what you're going to be getting back from this deal. And therefore, we want all of our money going in to equate to exactly the same. And I mean the purchase price, I mean the refurbishment, the fees, all of that money going in to make this deal what it is. We therefore want that to equate to the same as this. And if we can do that, that is what is known as an all money out deal. And that is what we are looking for, or looking to get as close to as possible with Buy Refurbish Refinance. So to therefore give you an example of this, if I am buying a property which I'll say is worth 140,000 at the end, and then I get a 75% loan to value mortgage on that, well, I'm going to be able to release £105,000 from that property. And therefore, all of my costs need to add up and equate to £105,000 if I want to refinance all of my money out of that deal. If the deal looks like this, let's say I purchased the property for £70,000. Let's say my fees are £5,000. The refurb is £35,000. Now, obviously this is a very simplistic version, but the total here, if I add these 3 together, is going to be a total of £110,000. So that's my all money in, without kind of some of the missing fees that I haven't included. I'm keeping this very simple for obvious reasons. Well, if I then do the 105, which is what I released from the deal, if I then minus all of my money going in, 110, well, that means that I'm going to leave £5,000 in this deal. I'm going to leave 5 grand in this property. Number 2 is all about bridging or buying with cash. And this is a very quick point that I'm going to make, because BRR is 10 times easier with bridging finance or cash. Okay, don't be a donut and go using mortgages. Although it is possible on some properties to use a mortgage, it's rarely worth the additional time that it takes to buy the property, and the cost difference isn't enough when you start deducting arrangement fees and early repayment charges. So that was point number 2. And point number 3 is all about money left in, okay? Because the money left in numbers are individual to each investor. Some people watching these videos would purchase a property and they wouldn't even consider buying something that leaves in more than £10,000 after refinance. But some people would feel comfortable leaving in all the way up to £30,000. It's based on the individual investor, your goals, and your circumstances. If you're investing in a higher value area, then £30,000 left in after refinance is very realistic. It's still very worthwhile and still far better than buying a £200,000 property off the shelf and tying up £50,000 as a deposit. If you are buying in a low value area, then you could probably buy a £100,000 turnkey property and rent it straight away for less than £30,000 with deposit and fees included in that. So what you don't want to do is do a BRR and get the same result in that area, because you want to try and leave in less money so it's actually worthwhile doing that full process. So those are my 3 tips to follow when doing Buy Refurbish Refinance. Now let's work through an actual example with the numbers. So I've pre-written out some of this information so that we can move through this deal in good time. But our example property is going to be bought at £70,000. And we're going to say that perhaps the property has been secured at a good price. Maybe it was on for more money, 80, 85,000 pounds. We've had the help of a sourcer who's managed to secure this below market value through very good negotiation skills and pushing in on the pain of the refurb and perhaps a motivated seller. If we buy a property at 70,000 pounds at the time of recording this video, which is subject to change, properties under 125,000 pounds in purchase price will pay a 5% stamp duty, which is £3,500. Solicitor, 1,700. Survey, depending on the area, let's put 500 here. And let's say for the sourcing fee, £5,000 including VAT. Refurbishment, again, what I'm finding a lot of people do incorrectly at the moment is calculate refurbs very, very incorrectly. And they'll come on and they'll say to me, oh, Justin, I think I could do this for £10,000. I'm like, what, you think you can do a full rewire, whole new heating system, have the whole house plastered, painted, new flooring, new kitchen, new bathroom for £10,000? If you can tell me where to do that, I will bite your arm off and pay you a fee for it at the same time. But that is not the case anymore. Usually minimum for a refurbishment on like a 2 or 3 bed terraced house now, in some of the cheaper areas will still be 30, sometimes £35,000. Holding costs, well, obviously during the time that we're doing the refurbishment, we are gonna have council tax, we're gonna have heating or electricity bills. So that's £1,000 I'm allocating towards that during the refurbishment, which might be over-egging it slightly, but it's worth doing. Bridging interest costs, we're going to say that we're using a bridging loan, and of course there is interest payments there. There is your arrangement fee. I'm going to allocate £4,000 to that approximately. And what many people miss is the refinance costs as well. There is a cost to doing a refinance, whether it be the solicitor, working with a broker, etc. So our total cost, if you add all of this up, comes in at £122,700. That is our total acquisition cost and refurbishment cost. That's what it's going to take to get to the property to the end value of £140,000. Now, we are saying that this property is worth £140,000 at the end, providing the surveyor agrees with that, and they also go out and say £140,000, we'll get a 75% loan to value mortgage, which will release £105,000, as we said earlier. So if we take this figure, £105,000, and we minus this figure off of it, so minus 122,700 off of it, that gives us 17,700. Or should I say minus 17,700. So that's the amount of money we are leaving in this deal. Hopefully that all makes sense. I'm gonna leave this part here, but just note that it took us 122,700 to buy and do all the works. And now we have released £105,000, so we're leaving £17,700 of our own money in, because this new mortgage will go towards paying off our bridging loan and then paying us back anything in between. I'm going to leave that bit there for a moment. And I'm going to talk to you about if we now took this property and rented it out for £850. So if we say the rent is £850, the next step is to, of course, figure out what our monthly profit is. Now, in order to figure that out, we need to figure out what our expenses are. So if we start with mortgage, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but to work out the cost of our mortgage, and we're talking interest only monthly costs here, not repayment, then what we're going to do is take our debt, which is £105,000. We'd then work out what our arrangement fee is, which could be 2%, 3% or 4%. If we say about 3% on this one, and we'd times our debt by 3%, we would then add those two together, and that would give us our total debt, because usually you add your arrangement fee to the debt. You can choose not to, but most people add it to the total debt. Then we'd take that amount and we'd times it by what the going rate is. And again, at the time of recording this video, you can get a buy-to-let mortgage at about 4.7% interest rate. If we then take that, times it by our total debt, we work out the monthly cost on that, we'd be looking at about £423.59 per month. Our managing agent cost, now again, managing agents vary, could be 10%, could even be as low as 8% sometimes, and sometimes it can be as high as 12%. But we're going to say 10% plus VAT, totaling 12%, and that comes in at £102 a month. We're going to say insurance, roughly about £30, and that is going to give us our monthly profit, which is £294.41. So that's our total monthly profit. And in an ideal world, we are looking for over that 250 mark at least. I'd like to get at 300 if I can. And this isn't too bad a deal, to be honest, because it is almost near that £300 per month. In an ideal world, we really would get a little bit less money left in and maybe a slightly higher amount of profit. But again, if it means that you get a good property in a really good area with good future prospects in terms of rental growth and capital growth, then you certainly would look at this deal. If we then take that monthly profit, we times it by 12, we get 3,532 and 95p as our annual profit. And if we want to then work out our return on investment, we take our annual profit, we then divide it by the amount of money that we left in the deal, giving us a total ROI of 19.96%. So not bad at all and not far off that 20% return on investment. And that'll only improve as time goes on if the rent does go up, if rates come down further, and if in the future it goes up in value and we decide to refinance and unlock more of that money. Now, I just want to say that normally I do get some clown in the comments saying that return on investment is wrong here and that normally it should be calculated annual rent divided by the purchase price, but they are very wrong. That is known as a yield. We're talking about return on your investment. But that is it. This was BUY REFURBISH REFINANCE, presented quickly, hopefully in a digestible manner. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.